guys, the chatter surrounding the canceled girls, Tana Mongeau and Brooke Schofield, is still going strong, and honestly, the rumors are only heating up. Everywhere you look on social media, people are convinced these two have been locked in a secret feud for months. Whether it's fans dissecting every little detail or supposed insiders dropping vague hints, the speculation just won't let up. And if you thought this drama was finally dying down, think again, because now Briana Chicken Fry has stepped in with her own perspective on what's really happening behind the scenes. But before we dive into everything Briana had to say, let's take a step back and look at how we even got here. For weeks on end, fans have been picking apart every tiny interaction between Tana and Brooke. Every glance across the table, every offhanded comment, every moment of uncomfortable silence during their podcast episodes. Some people are fully convinced these little moments are proof their friendship is unraveling behind the scenes, while others argue that everyone's just reading way too much into things. And honestly, with the way rumors catch fire online, it's getting nearly impossible to figure out what's true and what's just pure speculation. Meanwhile, Brooke isn't exactly taking the high road and ignoring it all. She's been actively clapping back at a lot of the gossip, making it crystal clear she's not afraid to call out what she believes is misinformation or flat-out lies. And here's where it gets even juicier. There's something else swirling around Brooke lately that has the internet absolutely buzzing. Some people claim it's just a convenient distraction to pull focus away from the podcast tension, while others think it might be the real reason things have been so strained between her and Tana. So now, let's break down exactly what Briana said that sent the comment sections into overdrive, why Brooke felt compelled to jump in and respond so directly, and what all of this might mean for the future of the canceled podcast and their friendship going forward. Over the past few weeks, there's been a constant buzz about Brooke and Tana and what their big decision really means for the future of the canceled podcast. It all kicked off when fans started picking up on little clues that something wasn't quite right. A few vague comments here and there, some unusually long stretches without any new episodes, and before long, everyone was convinced the podcast was on the verge of disappearing without so much as a heads up. And honestly, considering how everything unfolded, you can't really blame people for thinking the whole thing was about to implode behind the scenes. Eventually, Tana stepped in to set the record straight, or at least try to. She explained that canceled isn't vanishing overnight. Instead, they plan to keep releasing episodes through the end of the year until their contract officially expires. After that, she said there's a possibility the show could come back at some point. But for now, both she and Brooke feel like they've simply outgrown it. According to Tana, the main reason is that they each have completely different visions for the kind of content they want to create going forward. But of course, not everyone bought that explanation. A lot of people are convinced this isn't just about creative differences, it's about a falling out that neither of them is willing to put on full display. Some fans believe Tana and Brooke just don't see eye to eye anymore, and ending the podcast is the cleanest way to walk away without turning it into a messy public feud. And honestly, with all the rumors already swirling about the state of their friendship, the timing of this announcement only poured more gasoline on the fire. Tana did try to quiet the speculation, saying, "I love Brooke, don't twist that, just eventually there will be a new era. People grow and we need to." To some it sounded sincere and reassuring, but plenty of fans remain unconvinced. They feel like once the cameras stop rolling and the podcast finally wraps, Tana and Brooke will go their separate ways for good. And that idea has sparked even more debate over whether their connection was ever genuine or just another carefully curated internet storyline designed to pull in views and keep the audience invested. Recently, Briana Chicken Fry and Josh Richards stirred the pot even further, fanning the flames around the canceled podcast drama with their own take on what's really going on. During an episode of BFFs, Briana didn't mince words when she shared that she genuinely believes Tana and Brooke can't stand each other based on everything she's observed behind the scenes and online. She claimed that Brooke had been pretty open about how exhausting the show had become, especially since every new episode triggered a flood of hateful comments from viewers. And honestly, if you've ever had thousands of strangers picking you apart, it's not hard to imagine how that constant negativity could start to wear you down and kill your enthusiasm. Briana went on to draw parallels with her own experience, explaining that it reminded her of why she and Josh decided to shut down Planberry. She said there came a point where the barrage of criticism sucked all the joy out of it and turned something they once loved into just another draining obligation. In her own words, "That's literally why we ended Planberry. It was nonstop hate comments and it stopped being enjoyable. Eventually, you just start resenting it." So in that sense, she said she completely got why Tana and Brooke would choose to walk away before the negativity destroyed their passion for the show entirely. But even with that insight, Briana and Josh didn't exactly see eye to eye on what was really at the root of all this. Josh shared that, in his opinion, it all depended on which clips you happened to come across, because from what he'd seen, the podcast looked like it had plenty of positive energy and loyal support. Briana, however, wasn't convinced. She doubled down on her take, insisting, "Well, I think they genuinely do hate each other." She pointed out that they didn't even look like they liked each other when the cameras were rolling, let alone in private. And that's the moment the conversation took a sharp turn, catching everyone's attention and sparking even more curiosity about what's actually going on behind closed doors. Josh admitted he hadn't watched much of the podcast himself, aside from a few viral clips here and there, but Briana insisted that even in those clips, it always looked like Tana and Brooke were disagreeing or dealing with some kind of tension. She even brought up the JS Gate situation, though she didn't go into detail, just to make the point that it always seemed messy. Ultimately, Briana said she thought it was probably for the best that the podcast was ending, because from the outside, it didn't look like it was healthy for anyone involved. And naturally, it didn't take long for Brooke to fire back. She responded to the clip with a pointed comment that read, "Have different opinions equals loathe each other entirely. Noted." It was short, but it spoke volumes. Her reply made it clear she wasn't about to let the narrative spin out of control that every little disagreement or difference of perspective automatically meant there was some deep-seated hatred between them. Still, whether that statement actually convinced anyone to see things differently is another story entirely. Meanwhile, the comment sections under the clips of the canceled podcast episodes, especially the ones where Tana and Brooke discussed wrapping up the show, completely exploded. What started as curiosity about where the podcast was headed quickly turned into an all-out war of opinions. Fans and critics alike were picking apart every second of footage, analyzing every facial expression, every tone of voice, every passing glance. And honestly, a lot of the commentary was downright harsh. People weren't just speculating about whether the show was ending, they were questioning the authenticity of Brooke and Tana's entire friendship, and the discussion got pretty ugly pretty fast. Viewers said they felt like Brooke had changed over time, that she'd lost the authenticity that made the podcast work in the first place. One person wrote, "When Tana tells a story, Brooke can't just acknowledge it. She tries to one-up her and respond about herself. And at least to me, the podcast was good because they were different." Others argued that Tana and Brooke had simply outgrown each other. One comment that got a lot of likes said, "Tana doesn't align with Brooke anymore. They have grown apart. Tana's being so graceful about this, and the truth is, Brooke would never be that graceful if the shoe were on the other foot." Another person chimed in to say, "Tana's new era is going to be amazing from the hints we're seeing in her growth," while someone else blamed the tour they went on, saying, "I knew this tour would immediately destroy them." And in the middle of all the finger-pointing and heated arguments, at least one person decided to call out what should have been obvious to everyone, that all this relentless negativity was precisely what had turned the podcast environment so toxic in the first place. Buried among the harsh takes and conspiracy theories, someone summed it up perfectly in a comment that read, "This comment section is what they mean," and Brooke herself replied, "Exactly what we mean," making it clear she sees all the hate and knows it's part of the reason she's stepping back. But the backlash didn't end there. Brooke recently opened up about just how exhausting it's been to face non-stop hate. In a TikTok, she shared, "Me, I love my job more than anything, but I need to step away for a while because the hate is making me want to discontinue my life subscription." Even after she was honest about how much it's been weighing on her, people still didn't hold back. The criticism just kept coming, with more and more comments piling on no matter what she said. One comment read, "Can we please get her off the podcast? I hate her so much." Another person asked, "Are you off the podcast yet? Can we have the rest of the season with just Tana and Paige? Just T and P? You go do TikTok shop and spend your millions you got on tour thanks to Tana. No one knows you without her." But it's not total chaos in Brooke's world, at least not when it comes to her personal life. In the midst of all this drama, she actually dropped some major news. She's engaged. Fans had been speculating for a while, especially after a video popped up showing her at Aloe with a ring on her left hand. Some people assumed she was just trying to manifest an engagement since she joked about that before, but she put all the guessing to rest when she shared photos with her now fiancé, Miles, and captioned them "Engagement Moon," officially confirming everything. Of course, the reaction wasn't all positive. Not everyone was lining up to congratulate her, mainly because her fiancé has some controversy of his own. When they first went public with their relationship and people figured out who he was, it didn't take long for old allegations to start resurfacing. Rumors circulated that he had once dated someone significantly younger, which triggered an immediate wave of backlash. Before long, entire threads popped up trying to cancel him, but Brooke stood firm in her defense. She's repeatedly called the accusations complete lies and has continued to back him up, even as people left comments like, "The ring doesn't erase the allegations, dear." Brooke, true to form, didn't hold back when it came to responding. She clapped back at that comment with, "Mind you, there is not a single human person to validate," making it clear she wasn't about to let faceless accusations overshadow her engagement. If there's one consistent thing about Brooke, it's that she's never been one to shy away from confronting criticism head-on. That's likely why she also agreed to sit down on Isaac Rel's podcast recently, where she talked openly about her past controversies, including the resurfaced racist tweets that have followed her for years. Isaac ended up getting plenty of heat himself just for giving her the platform, but he didn't hesitate to ask the tough questions. He brought up how Tana had publicly called out the tweets in a video and said the podcast didn't condone that behavior at all. He asked Brooke how it felt to return to work afterward, whether she felt guilty or wondered if she should have stepped away longer. Honestly, her answer was probably the most candid and vulnerable she's ever been in any interview. Brooke admitted she was absolutely terrified to come back and face everyone again. She shared that when everything first blew up, she'd been so reactive and emotional that she knew she hadn't handled it well. Sitting down again, she still felt scared, but also like she didn't really have another option. As she put it, "That's my job. And I had to sit down. And I'm in a contract. And I have to work." She explained that while the tweets came as a shock to many people seeing them resurface, she'd already carried the shame of them privately for a long time. She went on to share that she'd already posted in the past about how shocked she was that she'd ever held or expressed those views. It took a lot of unlearning, she said, to realize that just because she didn't actively dislike Black people didn't mean she hadn't still been racist. It was a level of honesty that some viewers respected, but not everyone was ready to accept. The response was definitely all over the place. Some people argued Isaac shouldn't have given her a platform to defend herself, while others felt it showed she wasn't running from accountability. And that's basically where things stand right now. Brooke dealing with a fresh wave of criticism over her engagement, still facing backlash for mistakes she made years ago, and trying to keep moving forward while everyone has an opinion about her personal life, her career, and whether she deserves a second chance. At the same time, the canceled podcast is coming to an end, her friendship with Tana is under intense scrutiny, and the internet seems more divided than ever about what should happen next. So now I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Brooke deserves room to learn and move on, or do you feel there are just too many red flags for people to look past? Share your take in the comments below. Let's get into it.